Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for visiting and spending some time. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career nurse, 30 years of information technology in the Linux, Unix background, IT, security, systems development, design. I don't want to give a laundry list, but became a registered nurse going back to school at the age of 50. Most of my experiences in hospice and palliative care. And I have been on a journey of being a death doula, now working of getting certified through the International Doula Life Movement. This channel deals with topics of death and dying, end of life, chronic illnesses that can become terminal, and everything that goes in and around that. Sometimes we'll go down rabbit trails of writing books, as I'm an avid book reader and author. And there are times we'll go down rabbit trails giving gardening updates. My wife and I moved to central Kentucky late last year. We never had a vegetable garden, so we've been doing vegetable gardening. We planted some fruit trees that may take several years before they bear fruit. And if that's something that you appreciate, please feel free to subscribe, like on the button below. That helps the YouTube algorithm, and we'll go on from there. Today's topic, like Wednesday's topic, is for my fellow hospice nurses, but I will be giving a plug for those who are on their journey to be a death doula or have an interest. Before we go on today's topic, which is dealing with how do we manage cases where the caseload is higher than what it should be, I'd like to take a moment and do what I ask everyone to do. If you've been here, you know where I'm heading. If you're new here, I like you to pause and ask the question, what are you grateful for? When we're dealing with death and dying on a regular basis, it's very common for those around us. How could you do this? I couldn't do this for a living. I couldn't do this as a volunteer. And part of the reason that we're able to do this, at least from my experience, is we build and maintain resilience. Now, resilience for me comes from multiple sources. Part of resilience for me comes from my faith. This is a Bible that I try to read every single day. Part of resilience comes from looking at, is there anyone in my life that I've not forgiven yet? That's a hard journey. And part of resilience is, what am I grateful for? So today I'm grateful that I had an opportunity through Rise and Restore to participate in a what's your why? And I apologize, my short-term memory is like a fizz, a butterfly literally. But Ashley did a wonderful job walking us through our why. I'm grateful for everyone who buys my books. I'm grateful that I had an opportunity this past Tuesday to become, I shouldn't say become, I've been already doing hospice volunteer work here in Kentucky, because one day somebody's going to say, Peter, we have an 8-hour shift or less that we could actually hire you. But for now, I'm going the path of being a death doula, but I'm also a hospice volunteer. And Tuesday was my first time in Kentucky being a companion volunteer. And I'll get to do that again Monday of next week. So I'm so grateful for these opportunities to be of service. I view that as part of my purpose. Part of today's discussion, your why, is, do you operate in your purpose only when you're working? And for me, I try to operate in my purpose every waking hour. For me, that's writing a book. This week, it was helping a hospice executive get his manuscript in raw format to give him, here's a Kindle version, a paperback version, and a hardcover version. And oh, by the way, I ended up doing the book cover for Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. It's not something I advertise as a business, but it was a fee for service because it went beyond answering questions and pointing to Amazon links in terms of this person doing it for free. But he was so ecstatic with the outcome of my work. It was like, gee, I undercharged in my quote. He is ending up giving me 3 times more than what I quoted for. Thank you so much if you're listening to this. I'm keeping privacy in terms of who I did the work for and what was the manuscript about. I am so thankful for this person. I'm thankful for this opportunity. And if you're watching this, you know who I'm talking to because you know the amount I quoted you and you know the amount that you're sending. So that's what I'm grateful for. And I'm out there in various social media venues. My wife is like, we're doing our advanced care planning today. And she's saying, why can't you put your phone down? And I do. But it was like, I got a message from somebody that I'm helping for free, deal with some issues. And I had the time. And I felt, and yes, sometimes I have to watch boundaries on my own part, that I spend time with my wife. But getting to today's subject, I so much appreciate the Henrys. So Shelley and Adam Henry are the founders. I believe Shelley was the original founder, Adam's her husband, and they're the founders of the Amity Group. And they're one of the few groups that as a whole are supporting hospice staff, mainly nurses, on promoting safety, promoting manageable caseloads. And I am also one to say that we need to voice the no. We need to be comfortable of saying no, and we have to be comfortable of negotiating if we could find middle ground. I am a strong believer of compromise. Sometimes the answer is going to be no, because there's not going to be a compromise, but when possible, compromise. So we've all been there, and the reason I bring up the Henrys is in one of her videos, and Shelley, if you're watching, I can never express enough gratitude for you and your husband in the Amity Group. You brought up an excellent point that if we're struggling with caseloads, we have to be extremely careful just cutting the caseload. Excellent point. These are doctor orders. Now, I do want to, I wish we lived in a world of no fine print, but I feel I have to say my portion of fine print. And as we have this discussions, whether it be Shelley, myself, or other advocates for hospice nurses, because I am an advocate for all of you, even though I'm not currently in the field today in 2025 because I'm moving to Kentucky. I don't know if that's the right way to word things. I am an advocate for all of you. I care for all of you. And I'm just backing up so as I lean forward, my face doesn't just it's not about what I look like. But I am an advocate for every one of you. And there's some of you, whether it be Shelley speaking as an advocate or Peter speaking as an advocate, you're not going to like what we have to say. And I'm not trying to offend, but I'm not a people pleaser. I'm do the right thing person. So Shelley said something that was the right thing, but I do want to do some tweaking. Not against Shelley, not against Amity. I'm going to do some tweaking. Shelley made the comment that it's a doctor's order, and that technically is correct. But who determines the visit frequency? Is it the doctor? Think about that for a moment. When I do an admission and I'm the admission nurse and I talk to the doctor advocating for the admission, and that's where uh, I I strongly believe this replaces the hospice quick flips. I'm biased. It is endorsed by multiple doctors. This is just one of several. But when I admit a patient, no offense to any doctor out there or nurse practitioner who, from a point of view, is above me, I, the admitting nurse, am coming up with the visit frequencies. As the case manager, I, the case manager, am coming up with the visit frequencies. Now, I call that fine print for two reasons. One, Shelley is correct. It is a doctor's order. Number two, and this supports Shelley's point of view. This supports Shelley's point of view. We need to put the patient first. I've had managers say when I go to them to update them that I'm pushing the patient who's transitioning on daily visits. I've had managers come back and say, Peter, you know, you just made your life harder. You realize that their company policy is I could have waited for daily visits until the patient was actively dying. I could have went by their company policy and waited until the patient was actively dying to do daily visits. Do I realize I'm making my life harder? Yes, I'm making my life harder, but it's the right thing to do for the patient and the family. So the fine print cuts both ways. I, as the case manager, I make this decision. And there may be hospice providers out there. There may be some. Please feel free to comment. I am not going to chew your head off. This is a non-judgmental channel. But you might be saying, Peter, on our team, I called the doctor up. What do you think the visit schedule should be? I've worked for a Saracare under Golden Living, a Saracare under Amedisys, Grain Hospice under Abode Health, Grain Hospice under Bright Spring Health Services, Lifesong Hospice under Country Meadows. Not one had a policy that I had to go to the doctor for the frequencies. They all had a gold standard. They all had a standard of care that they wanted the nurses to operate within. And we did discuss frequencies at IDG, but it was the admitting nurse followed by the case manager who established the actual frequencies. So with that said, supporting Shelley, who is absolutely right that it's the doctor's order, is we should not be cutting our caseload to make our lives easier. We need to be advocating to our clinical managers and higher up the chain, go through the chain of command, that, you know what, I can't do this admission, and no, I can't have this patient added to my caseload. So I want to give you tools, because it's easy for Peter or Shelley or anyone else to say, do the right thing, but what about tools? So I want to give you tools, and I'm going to let you know in advance, I am biased. I am biased. My tools are going to be three of my books, and there are several other books that I've written that I believe are very helpful. But I'm going to bring up three books that we're going to discuss in today's episode. There's going to be Mindful Minutes, Time Management Secrets for Hospice Nurses, and yes, my short-term memory is bad enough that I need to look. My wife teases me, and I hope she's wrong that I don't have on. Anyway, I'm not going to go down her tease. The Complete Visit, and The Art of Hospice Visit Planning. By the way, I did lower the price of this particular book by $2 for the paperback that should be in effect by the time you watch this video. I priced it the same as Mindful Minutes that happens to have a lot more print to it, and Amazon bases the royalties not based on what our perceived value is. They base it on a formula that involves print costs. So more pages, higher print costs, less money received by the authors. So when we talk about how do you deal with, because when I worked for a Saracare, and as I share this, I'm not picking on any company. I want to be extremely clear. I am not picking on any company. I'm saying the caseload when I was working for them, what that was like. And I've had caseloads as high as 29, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. In my This is where I'm coming from for Peter, the hospice nurse and hospice and palliative care nurse. For me, the caseload should allow me to see no admissions. And right now, I'm not even talking acuity. I should be able to see 5 patients that are rural. I'm talking York County, Pennsylvania, where I could have between my furthest patient to my furthest patient about an hour of windshield time, one way. They're all rural, they're hospice patients, they're all appropriate, and I don't have anyone falling off a cliff. Again, I'm not talking acuity for high acuity. I should be able to see 5, and 5 for me in a day is a perfect position, because that way, if I have PRN visits, I could do at least one. I've worked for so many companies that want you at 6, and they're going, when I worked for a Care under Golden Living, was an hour. I work for a Care under Emeritus. They want you 45 minutes. Grain Hospice under both the Bode and Bright Spring were 45 minutes. And Lysong was a mixture. They were okay with an hour, and they did try to minimize the windshield time. But I say a mixture because, and this gets hard because I don't want to say negative things, and maybe things have changed, but they wanted you to be extremely careful on advocacy, and to an extent, so was everyone else. But that's its own episode versus this episode, which is looking at how do we work through, like Shelley made this very well stated video, that if we have high caseloads, we should not be cutting back our visits because that's putting the patient at risk. And when we talk about how do we prognose patients, which is a completely separate book that I don't know to what degree I have that in my pile handy. We become better proxnicators, if I'm not killing the pronunciation of that word, by spending more time with our patients. I've had families call back, how was Peter so accurate? And I am not God, and I am not a prophet, and I can point out how many times I was wrong. But I find that the more time I spent with the patient, which means visiting more often, not cutting your visit frequency, I was better at knowing where they were heading. And so let's go over, before I spend too many rabbit trails, let's go over, you have a high caseload. You're being asked to see 6 patients a day, and your caseload, and I'm gonna pull a number out of the hat that would be the minimum of high. So when we talk about ranges, I mentioned 5 a day is doable. There's agencies that post on some of the Facebook hospice groups where they say, we're nonprofit and we don't expect our nurses to see more than 4 routine visits a day. If only you were in Kentucky and you had 8-hour shifts. And even in that case, as much as I want to work part-time, if it was only 4 hours a day, I mean, I shouldn't say 4 hours a day, but 4 visits a day, I'd give up the death duel and probably come work for you full time. And if you're watching this and you're an administrator, an executive, an owner, the best way to retain your nurses is not overload them, not burn them out. I still remember, and I'm going to get to these books in a moment, so please bear with me. I still remember the first time I took a break from hospice. And this person, if you're watching, I'm not going to name you because I actually admire many components, many portions of you. You were one of my first mentors. This person taught me so much. And from that perspective, I will eternally be grateful. But a micromanager and a person that when I left after 2 years said, Everybody leaves at the 2-year mark, or most of you leave at the 2-year mark. I may not be quoting accurately. And there should have been a red flag saying that if almost everybody leaves after 2 years, there's a problem in management. There's a problem with caseload, and there's a problem with what you're expecting from your staff. But we have to advocate for ourselves as nurses, and that was my first time in hospice, my first 2 years. I learned so much. I cut my teeth on very raw, difficult home cancer patients, and I'm so grateful for that learning experience. And that's what led to a lot of these books that first 2 years. And then I came back to, it was in a Sarah Care, but this is now under Amedisys. But we learn, and we have to learn to stand up for ourselves. Well, where does this come with the books? Getting back to the ranges, industry average, the best case is 10 to 12, 10 to 14 is kind of pushing it. But what if you're at 18? What if you're in your low 20s? And you're out advocating, and you're giving your team red flags, like you're going to be walking out the door if they don't help you. And their help should be your clinical manager should be out in the field picking up visits. It shouldn't be don't give it to on call, or give it to on call and then you're having on call leave, and that's even worse if you're a case manager, because now you're picking up on call during the week. I still remember a Sarah Care both times. On call one time a week from 5 p.m. till 8 a.m. the next day. And then at least once a month, picking up Friday from 5 to midnight. And then if the weekend on call was on taking their eligible, due for them vacation, getting, we have to pick that up too. And this is not a complaint. This is part of the industry. We go into this knowing that when we interview, this is part of the job, but what can we do to make our lives easier? So that's what I do want to get into, and sorry that it's taking this long, but mindful minutes. So mindful minutes goes over how we can create a cycle that is beneficial to us. And I'm not going to read from you, but I'm just going to go into um, chapter 3, planning your success. Now, I get teased, sometimes positive, and sometimes I'm told I'm an idiot and nobody's going to do this. But I'm telling you, or sharing with you, that if you start working through what I'm about to tell you, your life will be easier. It will be. And just so that you're aware, I've had, when I worked at Grain Hospice, I had management coming to me, could I help other nurses who were struggling with far lesser caseloads than mine, get their day in, get their charting in. So what I'm sharing with you is what I trained other nurses with. So part of it is create a framework for the week. And some of what I'm sharing with you is freely available on compassioncrossing.info. So if you don't want to buy the books, and again, I lowered the price of a number of them. Art of Visit Planning was lower today. I purposely made this lower than low, for lack of better words, Nursing Week, and kept it as low as it is. But it talks about creating a schedule for your week. You're going to look at, where does everybody live in relation to one another? Whether you do this via Google Maps, Waze, a physical map, look at what everybody lives. You're going to have a gold standard for your company. Most of the places I worked, the gold standard was 2 visits a week. 2 visits a week. Now, the company that I'm volunteering with in central Kentucky, right now it appears, fine print, I've not verified this with their clinicians, but it appears that it's 1 nursing visit a week. That fits. So you're going to look where everybody lives, and you're going to try to group people based on where they live. Now, to add the clinical aspect when we talk about acuity, I would see my higher acuity patients that were still at twice a week visits on a Monday, Thursday. Because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, okay, got the weekend in there. I would make sure that I would see my higher risk patients on a Monday. So they'd be my Monday, Thursday. Then I'd have my Tuesday, Friday would be my lesser acuity patients. You would have those that maybe the 3 times a week would automatically fit in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And obviously your daily visits would be Monday through Friday. But you'd end up creating a schedule. And in the book, page 39 on the paperback, I have a sample schedule. And it's just a sample. You're gonna fill in your particular ones. But this goes into some ideas for how to prioritize. And then how to deal with unexpected changes. So just to give you an idea, this is a thicker book of the books that we're going over this evening, and I'm not going to be going over every single area. But as you're doing, let me start off at ground zero. Wednesday's video had to do with asking questions if you're the admitting nurse. And I mentioned that if I see the patient for the first time, I wasn't the admitting nurse, maybe I wasn't the case manager to start. I come in and I'm seeing them for the first time. I'm going to be doing two things. Two things. One, I'm going to be asking the admitted questions. Now, I may not ask every single one, depending on how well the notes were written from the nurses up to me. But I'm going to be going through a good portion of those questions so I can establish my baseline for where they're at. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the expectations for the future. It is so important. Don't assume that the family knows anything. I'm going to go over. This is what it's like. Let me backpedal once. I'm going to go over reminding them that they can call that 24/7 number at any point in time. I am going to stress to them if they have an issue, here they have two choices that they're going to have. Outside, and I know somebody's going to argue there's a third. But number one, this is an emergency. I need somebody to come over this evening. And I would stress, it's always okay. The on-call person's not keeping a list of, oh, Susie called again. They're the frequent caller, them again. I stress to them that doesn't happen. I stress if it's an emergency, ask for the nurse to come out right away. That's choice number one. And choice number two, if it really matters that they're the first person I see that day, the next day, call and let them know to say, please let Peter know that they need to be the first visit. Because I tell them based on where they live, we're talking about a map, they may be my last visit. They may be my last visit. So call. And I would stress to them, even if it's not an emergency, because I mentioned I covered all of York County, and there were times like if I'm on call, I think both the Sarah, Karen, and Grain covered pretty much the same number of counties. I had places that I still remember working for, I don't know, was it Grain or Sarah Care, one of the ones, one of those two, where it took me 3 hours one way. Does it matter if I'm the first visit taking 3 hours and the day starts at 8 o'clock? So I would share that with them. So maybe they're set, they're going, maybe I need to have a nurse come over. That accomplishes several things. One, it reinforces that they can call 24/7. That cuts down on the 911 calls. It improves patient outcomes. Everything that we do as a nurse, everything as a nurse, it should be to improve patient outcomes. And in hospice, that's the patient and family, and that's that survey they get after the patient dies. Everything that we do should be to improve patient outcomes. So if they call, I'm the type of person, for better or worse, that if I can, and I am, when I talk about one, two birds, one stone, I love birds, so I'm not talking about killing. But I'm the type of person that if I can accomplish several tasks with one thing, I'm going to go down that route. So then by them being trained, we're training the family and the caregivers that they can call any time of the day. We reduce 911 calls. Number two, if I have a high caseload and I convince them that it's their best interest to have an on-call nurse come out, and bear with me because some of you might load, well, you're overloading the on-call nurse. That's where we're going to get to the complete visit book. If it's true emergency and the on-call nurse goes out, even, and I'm still going to come out that day, I am still going to go out that day if they were scheduled to visit. And if they weren't scheduled to visit, I'm going to do my best to see them because I want to reinforce a lot of things. But by that nurse going out, unless it is crucial and that nurse will let me know that I see them first, I have breathing room. I can keep them in the scheme of things high potential because that on-call nurse went out and saw them and triaged them in person. And then I may have breathing room in my schedule. So I train the family. And when I'm training them to use on call, I'm giving them realistic expectations. I say to them, please realize we're not 911, we're not EMS. None of us, including the on-call nurse, has a lamp or whatever you want to call it that we put on our car. We got the light, the blue, flashing light. We have to obey the law. I let them know that the on-call nurse could either be at home or with another person, and that other person, that patient that they're with, could be in crisis, and they're going to stay with that visit until it's over. We don't just get jerked around because somebody called and we drop the ball and go to the next and all of this. And I educate them that if that on-call person is with the patient and you're asking for a visit, if there are other people along the way on their route, to see where it would be in the best interest of everybody so that they're not being a rubber band, they're going to see that person so that when you call, even if they're a half hour distance away, you might not see them for several hours. Now, if you're watching this and you're a family member and you're going, oh my word, I don't want to have anybody on hospice if that's the case. Please understand that the best agency and the best teams will break away from that, what they're doing as soon as possible. When I say break away, they're not leaving the location. They're breaking away to a private area that they can call you to manage HIPAA on both sides of the fence and call and share. Now, I will, as I'm going through this, because I have different people are watching this video, this recording. And so I'm going to run down rabbit trails. So please bear with me and be patient with me, please. So I had a case where I was in, I think it was, oh my word, it's near Dallastown. It is not coming to me, but it's a very rural area near the Maryland border of Pennsylvania. Uh, it's between Dallastown and Glen Rock, and it is not coming to me for the name of the area. But I got a call on my way to Dallastown to see somebody. There was an emergent situation in Manchester. Now that's an hour away. Could I go there? I said yes, because the Dallastown was a routine visit and it was a type that I can schedule the next day. And this gets into dealing with Shelley's visit, where you could, if it's, you don't want to cut down your frequencies, but you don't necessarily have to see everybody on your schedule that day if things come up. You can move people around in the week. So I called the Dallastown family and say, is it okay if I'm going to be there tomorrow? Because I knew I wasn't going to be able to go up and then come back because where everybody else lived. Yes, that's okay. So I'm now heading to Manchester an hour away, and then I get a call that my patient that's in the Crayley area of Pennsylvania, that's about a 30 to 45-minute drive from Manchester, um, is also in crisis. I have two that are in crisis. Wow. Now, geographically, in all transparency, I had to go within 15 minutes of the Crayley patient to get to the Manchester patient. So in theory, I could have called the other one, but that would have ended up creating distress for that family. Because even when you give the best education, we're not 911, we're not EMS. If I were to call them and say, instead of being an hour, I'm going to be, I don't know, because both of them were, I don't know how long I'm going to be there situations, how long I'm going to be there in person. So I had to make the decision, and any of you watching this is part of the pressure we have on us nurses. I had to make a decision what's going to be in the best interest for everybody. So I called the family back in Crayley, and I told, I have your this is the perfect storm. Your loved one's in crisis. I'm heading into a crisis. Here's how I'm going to help you. So we went over the existing doctor orders. I said, I want you to give XYZ. It was a GI bleed. Those are the hardest when you have terminal restlessness going on. I want you to give the morphine, lorazepam, and haloperidol. This was existing doctor orders. I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes, or at least do my best, and see where things are at. So as I am driving to Manchester, I'm trying to watch the clock, and every 15 minutes until I got to Manchester, I'm calling this family back. And 15 minutes I call, it didn't work. I'm then calling Dr. Eric Barr. Dr. Eric Barr, if you ever watch this, you're one of my heroes still. And he's giving me new orders. And I'm calling the family with the new orders. All the meds were in the home. That's the beauty part for the comfort kit that we had in place. And of all the companies that I worked for, AseraCare both times had close to what I would call close to the perfect company. Grain was almost close. Lifesong was a work in progress. But we had everything that we needed. And so I kept calling them back and giving them direction. So if you're a family watching, and we say sometimes we could be 3 hours to get to you, even in the state of an emergency, in the best circumstance, we're calling and giving you directions and checking in on you and following up with you. And in a worst case scenario, we might say, we need you to go inpatient, or we need you to go to the hospital, and let us call and coordinate. But getting back to the mindful minutes, I'm doing a lot of education with the family in every single visit. Here's how to set expectations. Here's how to set expectations. And part of mindful minutes is just trying to give you, in a lot of detail, a lot of time management secrets as to how you could set up your schedule so that when you have those emergencies come up, and they will and do come up, or you get those calls, Peter, can you take this admission? They're coming in at XYZ time. if you already have the time management secrets and you've been practicing them and putting them in place, there are several outcomes. Number one, you know enough to say, this is a no, I can't. Or here's what I can do. I can say yes to that admission if these two cases are either seen by somebody else today, or you, the manager, can go out and see them tomorrow. Or let me call my patients, and if they all say no, that they can't be moved around, no. And I need all of you, and I'm saying this as politely as I can, no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. And we have to be strong enough to realize that if we have managers saying, Peter, you have to, or you're fired, we have to be strong enough to say, it's your loss, because if you fire me, because I want the best for every patient I'm serving, and you're pushing numbers, it's your loss. I'm gonna take the hard ground, and the answer is no. So moving forward, I mentioned mindful minutes, complete visit. One of the lessons I've learned, and this is predominantly for both a Sarah Care and Grain, and I apply this when I worked for Lifesong, is what I was seeing happen is a lot of us, and I'm guilty of having falling into the trap, where I'm not cutting the frequency, but I'm cutting corners. And when we cut corners within our visit time, triage gets called more, 911 gets called more, and we have worse patient and family outcomes. The surveys are negative. And I feel tremendously blessed. One of my heroes at Sarah Care that's now a Medicis, Kim Yarnell. I appreciate you, Kim. Um, Kim was the one who, like, this is my Sarah Care under Gold Living was my first hospice experience out of the cardiology unit at Harrisburg Hospital. Peter, all your patients love you. And I still remember when I went back for the second time, I had a family say to me, Peter, we were ready to leave, and then you came, and they said it in a way like they didn't know what it was going to be like, because they had a female nurse and I'm the male nurse, and this was a female patient, and it was the husband who was speaking. I didn't know if I was going to, you know, this is the patient didn't die. It was just, he was just sharing towards the end of my stay with the Sarah Care that, Peter, actually, I take it back. The patient did pass, and I was talking to them, and he was sharing, Peter, I didn't know what to make of you when you first started coming, because he was getting ready to leave. And here, what I found out is there was so much pressure from the nurse that was there previously that corners were being cut. And I was at a place in my practice where, as much as I did not like or appreciate overtime, I was the nurse who was spending the time to do it the right way. I'm not trying to say that from a bragging standpoint. I'm trying to state that when I would receive compliments from patients and families, I'm like, from my perspective, I am doing what I would expect somebody to do for me. I'm doing what I would expect somebody to do for me. I wasn't going above and beyond. I was meeting what I believe to be the minimum standard. And sadly, the other nurses weren't, and I'm not saying that they were bad nurses. They were falling under that, like, you have 29, a caseload of 21, a caseload of 29. What do you do? So here, the complete visit, this goes over when you do your visit, what makes it complete? cross the T's and dot the I's. And so every single visit should be looking at what's the current prognosis. And I do have a book, by the way, on how do you prognose, but what's the current prognosis? That will help you when you get to the art of visit planning. What's the current prognosis? Because if they're getting closer to transitioning, maybe you should be seeing them 3 times a week versus twice. If they're getting close to being discharged for failure to decline, if you're going to bring that up with IDG, if they look like they're 6 months out, maybe you do need to see them once a week versus twice. Maybe you do need to consider, I'm not a fan of the every 14 days at all. That's one where I push back against. But maybe that's the case for them. So you're going to be assessing the prognosis every visit. You're going to be asking yourself the question based on what you're hearing from the caregivers, the family, and the patient. Do I need to see them on a PRN visit tomorrow? You're going to be reviewing what medications are left, especially if you have a holiday or you're hearing in the news that upcoming horrible weather storms. Like in Kentucky, we had a period of time for tornadoes, hurricanes, torrential storms. Uh, you have to take into account, will the pharmacy have issues doing deliveries? Do you have enough meds? Depending on the disease processes involved, I'm going to pick on glioblastoma. What if they have a seizure? Have we gone over the comfort kit medications in a while? You don't necessarily have to teach every medication every visit, but based on what you're seeing as part of a complete visit, should be asking the question, do I need to reinforce the education for the medications in the kit? Are the medications in the kit expired? Is the family aware of what can happen next? And that's part of the complete visit. So my complete visit, what I would go in, and yay for being handy, I'd have a Bluetooth keyboard. This is a foldable one. It's ProArc Bluetooth. I If I remember, I'll put a link. If I do put a link, probably associate link. Forewarning, it doesn't raise the price, just helps me keep compassion crossing.info completely ad free, other than the bottom associate links. But like I'd be there. I'd talk to the family. And this is part of the complete visit. Any changes since last time? If I walk in and they appear to be in distress, tell me about it. Tell me more. And I have my clipboard. Yeah, my clipboard and my brain sheets, and I'm going to be going over, tell me more, and I'm taking notes. So I talk to the caregivers first. If I'm at a facility, I'm talking to the facility nurses first. If I'm at a facility and I can get a CNA that's been with the patient at any frequency, I'm talking to them. If on the way into the facility, I pass by, because a lot of the facilities, at least for the ones in York, the social worker's door will actually be on the way to see a lot of the patients. Hey, I'm going to see so and so. Anything, and I'm asking these questions. I'm asking these questions and I'm taking notes. And then when I get to the patient, I'm doing my physical assessment. And most of the time, it's a focused assessment versus a full head to toe. I know some will argue I do a full head to toe every visit. If you're able to do that, great. I'm the type of person that I'm gonna go by, do I need to or not on the spot? Research, yes. Per visit, I'm gonna use my clinical judgment. But I'm doing all of that. And then there's gonna come a time where I'm gonna be sitting down. And if I'm in the home, I'm gonna find a place to sit down, and maybe with the patient present or maybe just with the family member. It really depends on the neurocognitive ability of the patient and whether any discussion is going to set them off. But I'm going to be having a conversation and I educate my families. Outside of the admission visit, I am going to be documenting in the visit. I'm going to be calling the pharmacy in the visit. I'm going to be calling the doctor in the visit. I'm going to be calling DME in the visit. And I would do that and I'd be making my calls. And you know what this does? Not only does it complete the visit, I mean, I would have clinical managers, Peter, you're one of the few nurses that have everything done by the end of the day outside of admission. Everything done by the end of the day, including research. And the reason being, and this is not to brag, this is saying if I could do this, you could do it too. Like I'm in my, I started nursing in my 50s. If I could do this, you could do this too. If you've been doing this for 30 years, yes, you could teach a dog. I'm not trying to demean you by saying a dog, but you could teach an old dog new tricks. You could learn these things and it will make your life easier. So I would educate them. I'm going to be doing all this and it's building trust. Because when they tell you that there's a problem and you got the doctor on the phone, and you could ask them on the phone, depending on the doctor, like you know your doctors. If you know your doctor is okay being on the speakerphone, depending on what the family's going through, do you mind, if you really want, I'll have the doctor on the speakerphone at a certain point of the conversation. You can interact. And so I get the doctor on the phone. And I give them a heads up because you don't want to surprise them. Please don't surprise them on this. But this is so critical, doctor. Dr. Barr was excellent on this. Do you mind talking to the family? A lot of times this would be about discontinuing the anticoagulants. Do you mind getting on speakerphone? And we do that. And I'm documenting this in the DME, and you're building trust because you don't say, I'm going to do this. You tell the family this and you go off and you have all the good intentions of ordering a transport chair versus a Broda chair, or a Broda chair versus this, or a Jerry chair. And you have all the good intentions. And when you finally get to it, you order the wrong thing. And everybody's human. We all make mistakes. But the family's they're going to believe you're a bad nurse because you had a single mistake where they should be giving you grace because of all the bloody work that you're doing. But if you do it in the visit, overall, you're going to have less to carry. Overall, you're going to have less to carry. If you have a complete visit, remember we're talking about tell the family, call triage and have the triage nurse come. And I would push that versus have them come out first thing. I wouldn't word it that way, but that would give me breathing room. But if I'm doing the complete visit and I'm educating them on what to expect next in the comfort meds and what to give next, I had the lowest number, my patient caseload had the lowest number of calls to triage. Usually it was when they passed, was when they call triage. Because I prepared them so well within the visit, I prepared them so well that when stuff happened, it wasn't considered a crisis. They knew what bed to go to, what to give, when to expect it to work, and if it wasn't working, then call triage. So by educating, you're making your life easier and you're making your team's life easier because triage is going to get less calls and they're going to appreciate, not that they don't appreciate you now, but they're going to appreciate you more because they're getting less calls from your patients. And then this too, when I would take on call, and I would try to say, like this, no hospice agency took me up on this. Maybe yours does this. I would try to say when we had our holidays and everything else, why can't we just take calls from our own patients? Well, that would mean we're all on call and yes, it would. But if you're doing this, I actually am biased. I was doing that because I knew my patients would rarely call me. And I was trying to get my other coworkers try to do the same thing. Anyway, getting back on moving track, because this is the recording system I'm using doesn't tell me how long I've been recording, so I want to value your time. But then here, art of visit planning. If you're doing the complete visit, you're seeing them more often. This helps you plan out how frequently you should see the patient, so that when you go back to Shelley Henry's statement that it's a doctor's order, technically correct. Technically correct. My fine print is the admitting nurse sets the frequency, not the doctor, most, at least all my hospice experience, and the case manager gets to adjust. But with the same fine print in the heart Shelley and Adam Henry have, don't penalize the patient by making it easier on you. Do the right thing for the patient. But you have tools. You have tools of the trade, whether it be my books. I have a number of free articles on compassioncrossing.info for time management, for visit planning, and so on. And if you have questions, reach out to me and I'll do my best to help. One of my nursing colleagues on LinkedIn was asking questions on, hi Jennifer, on admission brain sheets. And I shared with her the one that I used at both Grain and Lifesong. And she ended up sharing with me hers, and wow, beautiful. Well, what she outdid mine. Granted, hers didn't leave room on the back to write, but wow. But we had a brainstorming session back and forth, and this is done freely. And the reason I keep emphasizing in all my videos that I've done today, freely, 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 free, is I like helping people. And if I can work with you for a degree for free, you're blooming. I'm feeling better because I helped somebody. You're blooming and you're improving patient outcomes. Remember, I said our focus should always be patient and family outcomes. So I believe this is part of my calling to help you. You help others. And if it gets to the point like I had the hospice executive last weekend reach out to me, Peter, could I take over formatting and getting this book ready to print? Yes, it became a chargeable event. But until then, take advantage. Ask. Let's collaborate. Let's help one another. Because to me, we need to collaborate. It's not a competition. It's not a competition. And where I'm going to end in saying my goodbyes in terms of not a competition, I strongly believe what I'm about to say. I strongly believe I had somebody who viewed me as a competitor for two of the books I've written. And they went into Amazon and they gave 1-star reviews. One of them was for Mindful Minutes, and the other one was for my care plan books. And they did not leave why. Now, my books do not have to be 5 stars, 1 star, 4 star, 3. I want honest reviews. But, like, don't do that. I'm not your competitor. If you don't like something in the book, number one, reach out. I had somebody reach out to the book I first published, and they got to, and I forget the page they got to, it was a negative wording. Peter, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense the way that I worded it. And I went and I reviewed. She caught a critical mistake. I didn't word it correctly. She was right on target. So number one, I fixed it. I could not fix it for anybody who bought a print copy or a hardcover copy, but I fixed it. And I ended up saying to her, pick a book, any book, it's on the house. So we collaborated versus you got a 1-star. So part of the reason I stress free, and I'm trying to help people, and I'm hoping these videos are helpful, is I don't view you or anyone else as a competitor. If you want to write books similar to mine, they're going to have your brand on it. When I say brand, I'm not talking about a logo or artwork. I'm talking about your personal touch. You're going to have your way of presenting the information. Your heart's going to be throughout the entire book. I can't compete with that, and you can't compete with mine. It's collaboration. That's why I'm almost at the end. That's why when I had sponsored at the Alabama Palliative Care Organization, I donated $500 and was given the opportunity to do 15 minutes of a presentation over video. I could have did all 15 minutes all about Peter and Compassion Crossing. I did not time what I'm about to say. I believe it was between 5 and 7 minutes. I was talking about the benefits of the Amity Group's documentation books. Why? And I'm sharing this with you. Shelley already knows the reason why, because I shared it with her. She helped collaborate all of this. Thank you, Shelley. I cannot thank Shelley and Adam enough. I shared with her the reason I spent that amount of time focusing on her books before I focused on my books is because I believe they each have a place. Her books are excellent because they're laminated. Everyone who's been out in the field knows the value of laminated. They fit in your bloody scrub pockets. They are brilliant. They are concise and to the point. And if you need to do documentation, wham, and they now have the Dawn app, the DAHN app, that's free for I think 30 days free. Don't quote me, but I believe the Dawn app is 30 days free. It's immediate. Or I shouldn't say immediate. Dawn app is more immediate, but their books are I'm in the field. What do I do now? And you look it up. This could fit in your backpack or nursing bag, but it doesn't fit easily in a scrub pocket. That's not the intent. This is to help you master. This is to help you master all different areas. All different areas. It's meant to master. We're not competing. My books don't compete with hers. My book doesn't compete with whoever was upset with this. Sorry you're upset. Not competing. My care plan book doesn't compete. So I'm going to end here. I do appreciate you so much. Please comment in the comments below if there's a topic for a future video that you want me to discuss. If you're a hospice nurse and you like the books that I've been writing, let me know. If you've been buying the books and you said, Peter, the next time you update the book, XYZ, or whatever, let's have a conversation. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you, and God bless.